Okay, let's just check the volume levels before we do anything. So the voice sounds okay, and everything else looks good. So I've got just the factory InnyBuilds livery on the airplane. It's the cargo version though, so once we've lit it up, we'll go and have a look around it properly. Okay, so I'm going to go and work through the checklist. So I've already gone and done the loadout, so we don't have to do the weight balance. I've already done the performance calcs, so we don't have to go fiddling around with that. So the airplane's already loaded. Also, Simbrief is already loaded with the flight time. So we've got a departure time of 10 past 10, which is in 20 minutes. Hopefully we'll get out a little bit early. You never know. So I've put the torch on, and I've assigned a button on my controller to turn the torch on and off, because I think we might need it until we get the batteries up and running. So let's see how we get on. So first things first then, gets the batteries on, and external power on if available, and it is available to us. So APU master switch goes to on, and then we start the APU, and we should be able to monitor it straight away down here. So to do that, which is easier said than done, we have to put the APU screen on. There we go, and it will come up on here when it's up and running. So we'll leave that there for a moment, and we'll go overhead. So I'll try and do everything from the pilot position actually for a change. So there's nav, and nav, and nav. So that's set all of those. We can actually show the status as well up here. So if we go to of course it won't do anything until we come down here and do a line IRS on the initialization screen, and then it will show the minutes. I'm not quite sure why it behaves like that. So we've got to the point anyway where we're going to do this. So let's do it from this funny angle. So we're going to be flying from, let's go and have a look at Navigraph and just turn that chart off. That's where I was just preparing a few minutes ago. So we're at Luton Airport. We're going to be, let's put this on the IFR high chart, because then it makes sense looking at the airways. We're going to be taking off from Luton following a standard instrument departure, then flying on airways all the way over to Sandefjord and doing a racetrack. So this hasn't got the runway in, so let's go and fill the rest of it in for it. Select ILS runway 36, add to route. It's the unbound transition, which makes sense. And then taking off from Luton, we're doing runway 25. Okay, why was that taking so long to figure that one out? So it's quite a complex route, but we'll get it programmed in. So we're going from Echo Golf Golf Whiskey to Echo November Tango Oscar. Echo Golf Golf. Oh, it's saying a line IRS now, look. Echo Golf Golf Whiskey to Echo November Tango Oscar, or ENTO. E-N-T-O. Return. Now it says a line IRS. So then once we've done that, just so you can see this happen, we should get the numbers overhead. If we put this on the right screen. Or maybe that counts down. I can never remember this. Let's go Alt 1. So we've got nav, we've got the heading status showing. Anyway. What are we doing? Cost index. Let's go and have a look at the Simbrief flight plan. Cost index, cruise profile 100. Excellent. So it's just telling us that the GPS is improved. I might have put it on instant actually. Cruise flight level is going to be 350. Flight ID will be VFL 123. And our cruise wind. Now, does it tell you this over here? If we go and look on performance, no, that only gives you your takeoff parameters, doesn't it? And the wind on the, obviously on the departure runway. So we don't actually need to know this, but okay, let's go next page and go and put in our numbers for the fuel, which we can get from here now. So if we go back and go to weight and balance, or not, is it in ground equip? I can never remember where the numbers are in this thing. Or was it in performance? It's in performance, isn't it? Config weight 112,217 kilograms. 112.2. It would help if I was on top of this, wouldn't it? So we can see what. Okay, why is it not allowing that? Block fuel, let's go and work it out this way around then. Config, weight and balance. Ah, we can go to the next page to see. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. 13.9. So if we press Alt 4, is it? Oh, Sim's frozen. Give it a second. Oh, it's because we've gone and typed something in there. Alt 4. Okay, so if you've put something in there, how do you get back out of there? There we go. So, block fuel 13.9. Zero fuel weight. $98.8. Then, okay, so it calculates the takeoff gross weight for you. Then we want the centre of gravity, which is somewhere around here. 30.60. This is being a so-and-so, isn't it? It keeps locking the keys. Okay, so then we can go into the flight plan. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you get the takeoff calculations in here as well. I guess we can go put those straight in actually, because they're in here. That's in the calculator, which is back in here. You can tell I don't use this airplane much, don't you? Can't you? So 155, 163, 163. 155, 163. That's all looking good. And then for approach, that's all looking fine. So in the flight plan, we should be able to put the SID in straight away. So let's go and have a look. It's the Olney 2B out of runway 25. it is. Insert that into the flight plan, scroll down, and then going into ENTO we're going to use the star into ILS for runway 36, and I think it was ULMU 7T. I'll just double check that. Yeah, ULMU 7T and the ULMUG transition. Oh, UNBAM, sorry. It's the UNBAM transition. And insert that one. So then, if we scroll down then, so following Olney, what happens? We go to Welin, so direct to Welin and then P166, okay. So we can go WELIN and put that on top of the discontinuity. And obviously it's going to ask us which one because there's duplicates. And then we can select Welin and we can select the airway. So let's do this. Oh, F4. Alt 4, sorry. So we want to go via an airway to a point in space, don't we? It's interesting. What does airway do here? Okay, so this tells you which ones go out of there. That's quite cool. So Welin, P166 to Banto. I didn't know it could do this. Presumably we can scroll down through them. Excellent. And then we can do the same again. So then from Banto we can do P155 to Banem. So Banto, airway, P155 to Banem. So we can scroll through them to find Banem. There it is. And then from Banem we're going to go N866 to Ledbo. Where's Ledbo? There it is. Then from Ledbo we're going to go M604 to Lager. There it is. From Lager we go direct to Inbob. So I think we can do that straight on here. New waypoint, Inbob. And then M604 to SV8. So from Inbob we go M604 to SVA, there it is. And then M609 to Ulmug. And then we put then it should have already arrived. Yeah, the Ulmug's already in here, look. So we want M609 out of SVA to Ulmug. And we should be able to clear yeah, we can clear out that last Ulmug. We can clear the discontinuity. Will it do it itself? No. Yes, it has actually, yes. It's cleared it down, it's got rid of the duplicate. Perfect. So that's the basic route done. Just trying to think if I've missed anything. Let's go and have a quick look in it. That's all filled out. That's all filled out. Yeah, I think we're pretty good actually. So, what about the progress screen? What's that showing? So I'll leave it on the flight plan screen for the moment. Okay. So we're going to turn the no smoking sign on, or to auto, sorry. Seatbelt signs can come on. And the flight recorder we can put to ground control on, which is somewhere up here. It's always higher up than you think. There it is. And then the lights, strobes go to auto, nav and logo to 1. So strobes go to auto, nav and logo goes to 1 if it's available. ATS can come on, hopefully, because it took us so long to do the flight plan, everything will have aligned by now. So the dampers and everything will work, which is good. Fuel pumps, they can all go on. I've just pulled a wire here. I'm just make sure I've still got sound. Yes, I do still have sound. So we've got the pumps, which are switch on. Window heaters to on, and then the probe heats to on. So then over here on the air bleed, we're going to turn the APU bleed on, and it should change direction, and it has, and you can suddenly hear it. So then master control panel, we're going to go and set the decision height button and set it to -5. Calibrate the altimeters, I'm going to shortcut that and press B. Uncage the attitude indicator there. And set the landing elevation at the destination airfield. I don't actually know what it is, so let's go and have a look in LittleNavMap quickly. So we've got Torp here, 286 feet. So we're going to set 300. Can we push that knob in to... No, we can't do anything less than that, can we? 300 is close enough. So APU is running, so we can go and switch that back off so we get the standard display that's appropriate to the aircraft. And we're going to go and start the engines. So let's go and put ignition system, oh actually beacon light first, might be an idea. We're running on APU now, of course, so we can go and get rid of the ground power unit from the aeroplane, and we'll go and kick the engines off. So ignition goes to ignition system A. We'll do the right engine first. So we've opened the valve. We should see, there we go. The RPM is coming up, the N2. That's the gas turbine speed for engine number 2. And when it gets to 20%, we will advance the fuel condition switch for the engine, which is down here. So it's just gone through 20%. You should see overhead that will close itself automatically on the start system. Just wait for it to do that. Should go and put some lights on in the cabin as well. We'll go for dome lighting, and we'll make it bright so we can actually see what we're doing. So you can see the valve is shut there, so we'll open the valve for the compressed air to spin up the left engine. (15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20) and advance the fuel condition lever. Pop quiz, what GPU am I running? I have no idea, I haven't even looked out the window. Okay, so just waiting for the engines to come up. So there we go, done. That can go off. The bleed can come off. The APU master switch can come off. And down in the cockpit we can go and engage the The speed brake lever, we can set the flaps for takeoff, should be 15. I can't see around corners. That's 15. And we can taxi essentially, but we've done things a little bit out of order because we should have pushed back before we start the engines. So I'm going to ask for pushback. Oh, we've got an invisible pushback truck. That's always useful, isn't it? Is there anything behind us? Oh, we've got an empty space behind us. That's good. Swig of coffee. Lift the microphone away from my face a little bit so I don't breathe on the microphone. This is the slowest pushback in the known universe. Okay, let's stop the pushback there, put the parking brake on briefly. So, doing things a little bit out of order here. So we are going to be taking off. Let's pull up the chart for the airfield. We're going to be taxiing out around Bravo, then Alpha. We'll be taking off on runway 25, which is 254 degrees, which is the data we need. So we're going to go and pre-select 254 on the heading just in case we need it. That's interesting though. I always forget this, that on the Airbus A300 they hadn't got these things down yet where you can select heading by pulling the knob and it selects it. If you push it, look, it's gone back to, that's interesting. Anyway, messing around with systems and figuring out how they work, that's not what we're here for. Let's go and have a look at that departure because we need to see where it goes and what heights it's got on it. So we want to get to 5,000 feet then, and then 6,000. So 5,000 is our first climbing altitude, and then by the time we get to Banto we need, now is that the minimum up there, flight level 210? It's better representing this in, yeah, so P155 is 21,000 feet, so by the time we get up to Banto, which we probably will be at 21 by then, I imagine we'll be fine, but our initial climb we need to be at 5,000 feet for the Bovingdon waypoint. Okay, so we'll go 5,000. Oh, what's the transition altitude, just out of interest? 6,000. Okay, we're getting there. So we can also go and we should be able to select nav mode actually, because we're on autopilot. And for the climb out, if I say 2,000 feet a minute, we'll see how this behaves, because I'm probably going to go for level change to get to 5,000 feet, but I'm not sure that it will behave if we select it immediately. We're probably better off going for vertical speed to begin with. Now, if we select that, I don't think it'll do anything until we're in the air, to be honest. And we'll go and pre-select 200 knots for the speed as well. So a lot of this could be done by taxiing, but I haven't got a spare pair of hands. Okay. Let's turn the head tracking on. So we've got a taxi light, but the taxi light's pretty feeble. Let's just check it's actually working, shall we? No, it hasn't been switched on. That would be why it looks so dark. But you can see it's still pretty feeble. The 737 in X-Plane always used to make me laugh because the taxi light, if you switched it on when the tug was still in front of you, the tug driver would complain at you. I think it was called Better Pushback that did that. Okay, I'm going to go and check something. I've got an awful lot of excess thrust here. I'm just going to go and check the calibration of the throttles. What's going on with this then? This is wrong. Let's go and have a check of what we've got. So I've got the 310. I didn't think I had an Airbus 300 configuration. Maybe I have. It just felt wrong. Okay, we'll just recalibrate it while we're here then. Okay, set max rev. Set idle rev. I'm going to job with my controls now to make them behave themselves. There we go. Get them even. Set idle. Set toga. Versus R on axis, that's correct. Okay, they should behave now and we shouldn't go racing off like a sports car down the taxiway. Right, here we go. That's better. I've still got the torch on. Also, should we turn this back to dim now? So you can see London looking in the distance. So it's 1 minute to go until departure time, so we're only going to be a couple of minutes late after all of that. So how do I get the iPad? This aircraft comes with the tablet. This is the Builds A300. For anyone who's listening to this and not seeing the live stream chat, I'm responding to questions as we go. So let's just have a look at where we are on the taxiway. So got a little way to go down to the end of Alpha, so we'll follow the taxiway down. I wonder if there's a way of removing the tablets. Switch them off. Or just at least to make them go dark. better. So someone's saying I turn very slowly in the Inibuild's A300. Well, maybe because it's realistic. Did you realise there's a bank angle selector there? If you mean turning in flight, you've got a normal bank level and 15 degrees, so you can make a shallower bank if you need to. Aeroplane in front of us. Waiting for? Can't see anything on approach. Okay, it's disappeared. Second. Now have all the lights on, should we go and have a look outside to see how pretty it looks? Okay. You can see the flight plan now there on the navigation display. Toga. So I'm going to turn off the head tracking for a moment, just in case I need to go and click anything in a hurry. Oh, look how pretty that is out there though. I'm sorry, I have to go and see this. So gear up. I'm just hand flying it at the moment, following the flight plan. Too busy sightseeing, not following the plan very accurately, so let's get it back on course. Let the aeroplane do that so I can look out the window. Oh, we've gone through the cloud cover already. It's a shame. side. Okay, so we got a warning because we were going too fast on the flaps. So I immediately retracted the flaps. I made the warning go away. And we had overshot the altitude. We climbed a lot faster than I was anticipating, actually. And while we were busy looking out the window, admiring how pretty it all was, we went to 6,000 instead of 5,000. We're supposed to be at 5,000 at the moment. So as you can see here, and if we go and have a look at our charts, if I can remember which window Navigraph is. So, okay, why hasn't that worked? Let's take the autopilot off. What's going wrong? Why is it doing what it's doing? Let's get it back on track first, and then we'll do some fault finding in a moment. Why did nav mode not engage? Was I just too far from the track, maybe? And it just gave up on it without even telling me. Okay, it's behaving itself now. So we'll get it close to the track and then we'll go to nav mode. Let's have a look at the flight plan. D334 should be the next waypoint. Yeah, it's got the wrong... It's missed... Because we were busy deviating slightly, it's missed that we've flown through the waypoints. AFS... What is this doing today? The auto throttle's failed. It's ignoring the auto throttle. And of course now the autopilot's completely off. Okay, that's better. So in the meantime we've come through the transition altitude, so this should be 2992 now. And the head tracking is really not helping us. I think they're both the same. I'll check in a moment. So the auto throttle has just woken up again. So now it's working. This is just bizarre tonight, isn't it? Okay, so it's doing altitude hold 10,000 feet. Let's get things sorted out. That was absolutely bizarre. So speed can come up to 250 anyway. Landing lights can come off. We'll take this out to 18,000 feet now. And level change it. There we go. And now if we go nav now, is it going to behave? Let's see what this does. Of course it won't, will it? Of course it won't, because I haven't set what leg we're on yet. So we'll put it back on heading mode for the moment. We are approaching the Bovingdon, but if we go for Olney, that would make more sense, wouldn't it? So if we... yeah, go for Olney. That's bizarre that it lost track of where we were on the route. We're on heading mode at the moment, so we don't need to worry so much. So now it's working. We need to get to 21,000 feet though. I've never seen it lose the autopilot that badly. It lost the auto throttle, then it lost, because it missed a waypoint, it then wanted to double back on itself. So we just went heading mode until we sorted it out. So we should be at 6,000 feet only, but there's no way we'd get to this airway in time if we did that. We need to be at 210 by the time we get to Banto. So we increase the range on this. There's Banto. So we're going to go to Olney, Welwyn, and then loop round to Banto. So it's almost going to join on the turn. It'll almost join P155 before we get there. So we're at 21,000 now anyway, so we may as well climb straight to cruise altitude, to be honest. Which was 350, wasn't it? So it's saying true air temperature is in the icing range, so we can go and turn on the anti-icing measures. So after our eventful start to the flight, it's now going to be tremendously boring for the next hour or so. Yeah, so someone just shouted out, we're still in takeoff mode on the throttle. We could put it onto auto, to be honest. To be honest, it only makes a few percent difference. So minus 12 outside, but there's no cloud around, so we're already above it. And down on the ground level it was above freezing, so it does look pretty out there, doesn't it? Go a little bit higher in the window. Should have a look from outside. So the town we can see out there off the left side of the aeroplane is probably either Leicester. It'll be Leicester, won't it? It's very cool, isn't it, how it does that? Yeah, LittleNavMap will work fine for learning how to fly the big jets. You don't need Navigraph at all. It's very much a nice to have. Now this is going to be interesting. Obviously you can see this is not making the turn in time at the speed we've requested. So it's going to have to turn back in towards Banto. You can see that there on the projected flight path. So what it's doing, look, it's going to come in at an angle, but it will make it eventually. We haven't got TCAS on yet, but then I haven't got any other traffic around me anyway. I turned it off for the simulated traffic. What we should have done is put TCAS on TARA. It's on my checklist, I just didn't do it. So once you've done that, you get the radius rings and you'll get annunciations if anything gets close to you. I guess when... It's interesting, isn't it? Let's have a look at those buttons. Okay, so we can turn the heat systems back off. We're out of icing range. So the one thing you will notice with LittleNavMap is if you start messing around with routes and stuff, this was all, or most of it, sorry, from Bantam onwards I think was P155, but LittleNavMap for some reason has not realised that. So possibly because of the climb profile, it thought we wouldn't get to it in time, therefore it put direct twos underneath the airway. Which looking back was probably was correct, because the airway starts at 21,000 feet and the climb profile for the aeroplane, we've still got it on an incorrect performance profile, but it was anticipating we wouldn't get to 21,000 feet as early as Banto. Obviously we've gone way beyond that, we're at 32,000 feet, but then we started climbing earlier than we should have. But yeah, so LittleNavMap does exactly the same as Navigraph, and in some respects it's better because this is a bit more readable rather than having to interpret the charts. But then if this is what you're aiming towards, with being able to look at the charts and see them, then you know this will be much more useful to you potentially. The other trick Navigraph has got, if you fly in the USA a lot, let's pull it over here, go down on the San Francisco Bay maybe, we can pull up the FAA sectionals now, which is quite cool, and it's got all the different scales as well. So when you zoom out, you get different layers of complexity. It's very cool. Anyway, we'll go back to IFR high and we'll zoom out. Go back to us. So we're zooming along over the eastern part of the UK, sorry. We've still got our seatbelts on, but we're just approaching cruise altitude, so we can go and turn our seatbelt signs off. Let the passengers go and wander about. Does SkyVector do this as well in the US? I think yes it does. You have to be careful with SkyVector because it's real. It's not a toy. So don't ever file anything with it. It will let you. And that's a real flight plan that's been sent into the real system. So yeah, be very careful with SkyVector. I don't know if you can actually send anything in without a paid account, to be honest, but yeah, just be aware of it. Let's turn the range up. So you see we've got quite some distance to go. I'm not going to sit here talking for the whole flight, so I will leave it on a nice view for a while. What we'll do, we'll put LittleNavMap on. We'll go. I've got a saved window layout in LittleNavMap, which is a minimal layout, which just shows the basics. Although that's going to really burn everybody's eyeballs out on the view, isn't it? To show where we are along the route. And there's going to be nothing to see outside, so I think we may just sit in here for the whole flight. There's nothing in the memo page, that's unusual. So I'm just playing with the brightness of the various instruments. That's better. It's just I realise these are a bit kind of blowtorch bright, aren't they? So I'm just turning them down a bit. Earlier on we didn't go and check the barometric pressure over here, did we? Yeah, it's wrong, look. 2992. Do we have a backup one as well? Yeah, that's wrong as well. 2992. In the middle of the everything going wrong, didn't get a chance to come back and correct everything. So what I'm going to do is move the camera slightly up in the air and back further. And I'll leave us flying with a lovely dark cockpit. I guess we could put the tablet back on. Can we get the charts on here? And does it support dark mode? This only doesn't show a map though, does it? It only shows the actual charts. It's a bit of a shame, but we can pull up the flight info, I guess. Okay. Oh, thank you for the donation there, CZ Horse, or CZ Horse, is that? Sean saying, have you tried VATSIM before? Yes. I don't often use it because I'm busy recording stuff usually, and obviously VATSIM won't play well with recording because they'll want answers and want me to obey their instruction. But I will, at some point, I'll do another video. A long time ago I did a look at VATSIM and explained it to newcomers a little bit, but that was back in the Explain days. I wonder why the altitude is flickering. Anyway, yes, something I am keen to do though, which is a bit more friendly than VATSIM for newcomers, is to show a video or record a video of a group called MyAir that I sometimes fly with. Oh, we're at cruise, aren't we? I need to go and do the throttle. Just remembered that. This is the problem. That's interesting though. It's still showing. Oh, it is showing cruise. Yes. Sorry, I'm losing the plot here. MyAir, yes, they're a bit more relaxed than VATSIM, or a lot more relaxed. So if you do something wrong on MyAir, they'll just laugh. So if I was to move the camera forwards, will it stop it flashing? Interesting. Thanks for that. That's good to know. Yeah, it gets worse the further away you are. Doesn't do it when you're close to it. Fascinating. So we're looking at, does this give us on the progress screen an ETA for the destination? No, but does the flight plan? Yes, it does. Okay. So we can get some speed on, and then I'm going to leave it alone for a while. I think that would go down in history as the most incorrect departure I've ever done in an airliner. It's fascinating though when things do go wrong. There's so much to learn there about what it did when as soon as it deviated, because we deviated looking out the window, as soon as it deviated from the flight plan, even by a small amount, it dropped the autopilot, it dropped nav mode. It started to try and circle back for the waypoint it had missed, rather than jump to the next one. Obviously, if you know the aeroplane well, all you would need to done is clear out the waypoint we've just gone through to force it onto the next one. But I just went to heading mode until we got it sorted out, which is almost as good a thing to do, to be honest. And that shows why it pays off actually, to keep the heading bug broadly pointing the direction you're going. So we want it pointing about 30 degrees at the moment, look. So I'm just lining it up there to line up with the track. So it's only when things go wrong you realise why procedures are the way they are. I wasn't sure of the maximum speed. I'm not going to go too close to the operating limit, otherwise if we were to get a wind change direction we could overspeed. That can come off now. So if we were to turn off the dome lights, how dark does it go? It's not too bad, is it? zoom this in a bit. You can see the next waypoint coming. So we're going from Banham to Ledbo. Yeah, I imagine the departure I did, I would have been hauled over the coals if it had been on VATSIM. They would have probably sent me vectors to rejoin later on down the route. But at least it would have given the controller something to do, hey? It must get quite boring when people, it's obvious they've programmed everything and the aeroplane's just following rails. I guess then for fun the controllers can just give them some vectors and give them some spurious reason why. So Hunergal is saying, which one do you prefer, the PMDG or the fly-by-wire Phoenix? They're all good. I don't really have a favourite. You get more to do in flight in the Boeings. And I guess because I've used the PMDG Boeing so much and the Zebo before it, I know the 737 so well. When look at that lever, that was the USB controller caused that. Can you put these in the middle? You can, look. So that's similar to the Boeings, isn't it? Where you're not pressurizing the system while the switch is in the middle. What was I going to say? Oh yes, so there's more to do in the Boeing, but of course during a difficult situation that can be a hindrance as well. So the automation in the Airbus does afford the pilot more time, unless that system is going wrong, and then it's just as complicated as the Boeing. It depends if you're simulating failures or not. You know, if you're trying to fact find in the Airbus, you need to know the various markers that appear really well to know what law it's flying in and all the rest of it, and what the implications are of what you're seeing. I'm sure the real pilots that have flown both, the likes of is it Emmanuel, the 737 pilot that has the YouTube channel, he would probably have all sorts of stories. But then, given he's now working for Airbus, he probably is not allowed to have an opinion. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Or he might be quite careful about what he says. But I'm sure every pilot, it's like there's a very good YouTube video of an MD-80 pilot or MD-82 pilot, I forget which exact model, showing you around the cockpit. And even though he moved on to much more advanced planes in later years, he still loved the MD-82. I think it was an MD-82 he was talking about, just because it had so many quirky features. And once you got to know it, you know, there was the achievement of flying it well, I guess. Is the 737 difficult to learn if you've exclusively flown the A320? No. In many ways, the 737 is easier to understand because it's more manual. So there's a lot of logic to it. So it will teach you more about the mechanical side of the aeroplane, I guess. So like starting the engines up and transferring the power around. But that makes it more obvious what's actually going on inside the aeroplane, rather than in the Airbus where you hear clunks and whirs in the background and valves opening and stuff. In the 737 it tends to be you doing that. So Clueless God is saying, are you licensed, John, or a PPL, or are you just an enthusiast? Just an enthusiast. I'm not a pilot. It says on my description on YouTube in giant letters, not a pilot. Or not a real pilot. I should get a t-shirt, shouldn't I, with not a real pilot written on it. I think probably a lot of people would buy that t-shirt. I think the other t-shirt that might sell a lot of copies is I forgot to turn on ACARS. People keep asking me if I'll make some t-shirts for the channel, and I think the first one I make might be not a real pilot in, across the chest. Yes, it's Lee. Mind the pylons. That's a good one, yeah. Or just a diagram of a pylon with pylon collector written under it. And then a list of places you've hit them on the back of the shirt, maybe. Or a list of places David Beckett has hit them on the back of the shirt. It'd have to be a pretty long shirt though then, wouldn't it? So, Lee, just so you know, Nightbot is automatically deleting anything with too many emojis in it. It's just one of its built-in protections against kids, I guess. So imagine waiting at an airport, you see your pilot wearing the "I'm not a real pilot" shirt. Or you could have another shirt to wear on a commercial flight, couldn't you, saying "I could land it." Or "I reckon I could land it." Oh dear. Right, I'm going to go make a coffee. I'm going to leave this running for a while, because as you can be able to see from the chart, it's going to take a while to fly across the sea here towards Sandefjord. We've got, let's open LittleNavMap up, we've got quite some distance to go. So measure to top of descent. Actually, let's go and do something here. So if we add a range ring to this and say 100-mile range, although it's got a racetrack in it, so let's put 80 miles, which will give us some decision time, which is pretty much, where I just measured to. So it's not that far, right? 360 miles to go. So what is it saying time-wise to get to SVA? Let's have a look on the chart. It's the flight plan. If we scroll it up, look for SVA, we're going to get there at 23:35. So that's when I'll come back, in about half an hour. 40 minutes. So obviously I'll keep an eye on it from a distance, but I'm going to go and disappear and go make myself a drink and eat some rubbish and watch TV for half an hour. And I'll be back to bring the airplane in. So I'll see you soon. Okay, I'm back with you. So it's just coming up half past. We've got the top of descent ahead of us. Let's go and have a look and get familiar with the arrival route. So we haven't got any restrictions really until we get into Ulmug. So above 4,000, above 3,000, below 150 at Ulmug. It's actually going to be quite an easy run in really. How are we doing on fuel? Just looking at the engines as well, just checking around things so that all looking okay. Fuel flow is good. Cabin looks fine. Let's put up the fuel display on the engineering screen. Yeah, we've got plenty. Starry night. Go look outside. If I slide forwards, so the cities we're just passing over. If we go and pull this up on LittleNavMap, you can see it here. Kristiansand. We're going to fly along the coast over the top of Lillesand, Grimstad, Sandefjord. And then eventually we'll do the racetrack pattern into the pattern at Sandefjord. Pick up the ILS. Before we do that, let's go and tidy the map up in LittleNavMap. Remove that measurement. Okay, so we're just coming through SV8, which we can see on the navigation display. You can see the route in, which is all marked quite nicely. So let's go and preset this down to 150 now then. Actually, we can go straight for 10,000 feet to be honest. Takes forever to roll it, doesn't it? I'm holding shift on as well, so they just obviously haven't implemented an accelerated roll. Okay, so let's do a level change and see how quickly it will do it if we let it do it on its own. And while we're looking at that, let's just go and check the transition altitude. Will be on the approach plate probably, but not on the star. Yeah, 7,000 feet. So we'll concentrate on getting to 10,000 feet to begin with. Yeah, you can see we're going to get there quite early. So what we'll do is go back to vertical speed mode. And we'll just judge it to get to Ulmug for the right altitude. In fact, what we could do pull the speed back a little bit. So altitude's coming off. It gets easier to descend, to be honest, the lower you get, because the air thickens up and you get more control over airspeed. You can change the altitude by thousands. Is this going to be a keyboard combination somewhere to do that? Or is it something set in the tablet? Or is it in here? Okay, yep, got it. You just click the top half. Yep. Every airplane's different. This is the thing. Because I fly different planes every day, I don't often know my way around them as well as I might. Yeah, so you click the top half of the knob and it switches between hundreds and thousands. The strange thing is, though, of course, there's no indication of what mode you're in, so you have to try it. We're in hundreds at the moment, obviously. The one that always makes me laugh in Flight Simulator is you can increase or decrease the rate of the simulation. So the rate time is passing, but there's no indication anywhere of what rate you're in. So the only way of telling is to look at a clock, if there's one in the cockpit, to know if it's running on time or not. You know, to time a few seconds on it. Let's just check the volume levels before we get too far in. So yeah, let's go and turn the cockpit down a little bit. It's quite noisy, isn't it? So we're coming in slowly. Let's decrease the range on the display down to 60 miles. So I'm giving ourselves a little bit of leeway to get the speed under control as well, because we won't be going under 10,000 feet. Unless we are below 250 knots, obviously. So we'll need to have a think about that. Are there any other instructions here we need to think about? Nothing obvious. What about on here? So we'll be coming in on unbam. So we want 3,000 feet for unbam then. And then just fly into the ILS beam. So we'll need to make sure we've got that tuned in for a bit later on. So we want 11095, 355 degrees. So 11095. .355 degrees. Okay, that's that done. We might want to tune in the VOR here at Torp as well, 11385. Can we do it here? Actually, no. That's a good point. We'd have to switch over the navigation system to VOR to be able to do that. I don't think it will allow us to do it while we're not using it. And we're coming back into icing range as we descend, so let's go and turn the anti-icing measures on. So here comes Ulmug. We're doing this quite swiftly, aren't we? So let's go and pull this back out to 2,500 feet a minute now. We're not going to need that much time to slow down. Like I said, as soon as you get into the denser air, you tend to be able to descend quite easily. We're below the plot, so you see there's a vertical deviation here. So according to the flight plan, we should really be higher than we are, but I'm coming in lower on purpose. just to give us more time to do things with not being that familiar with the aeroplane. We also need to go and put the seatbelt sign back on. Tell people to go to the toilet now and get back to their seats. We need to find out the barometric pressure of the destination airfield. So open airport, Sandefjord, weather 2944. So that will become important once we get down through 7,000 feet. You can see the route in there. So we're coming down through 15,000. See, according to the plan, we don't need to be at 15,000 until we get to Olmog. We're just coming down a little bit earlier. Okay, let's start getting this to slow down for us. So if we go and set to 50 knots, let's see what the throttle does. And see how much it can slow down when we're still descending. So obviously we're getting into the thicker air slowly, which will help. The graph guard is here. Hello again. So we're just coming down 10,000 feet and we're decelerating slowly. So obviously once we level out at 10,000, the deceleration will occur much more quickly. So let's reduce the range on this again. So we can see Olmog is coming. Another reason for coming in a little bit early is we get to see some of the lights. So on about Simbrief, have I still got the browser open? Yes, I have. So if I do this, the real takeaway from this isn't this summary screen, although this is really useful, because if you look inside each of these bits, it's got excerpts from a thing called the operational flight plan. So this is kind of cheating. If you view the PDF, you see the original operational flight plan. This is the same, or very similar to the thing that the real crews take on board the airplanes. So if you get used to looking at this, and you get things like the planned fuel here, and there's the route. You've got the weights there, and the thing I'm really looking for in here, there's tons and tons of information. You get the winds aloft, which is really good. Got the flight plan again. But you get lots of extra information, like details about the destination, departure, destination. So we can see in here, look, the wind at various different altitudes. It's very clever, isn't it? Then you get NOTAMs and stuff like that in here. It's very, very cool. Anyway, whereabouts are we? We're at 10,000 feet, approaching Olmog. We're at 250 knots, which is what we've asked for from the aeroplane. It's looking good. Let's have a look on the map and see where we are. So if we get rid of that, see, here we go, we're just approaching Olmug and then we turn in. So if we pull up the chart again, we want to be above 4,000 and then above 3,000. So we'll go for 5,000 at Mopap. So we've got 15 miles to drop 5,000 feet. Won't be too difficult at all. So what we'll do is go and set that altitude without instructing it. What we could do, if we went to the transition altitude, that gives us a good reminder of what we're doing at that point. So if we'll put this back to 7,000, and we'll do a level change to get there as soon as we get to Olmug. Does that make sense? Simbrief is great. Just remember that Simbrief doesn't do the SID or the star for you. It does the route, but not the SID or the star typically. So you might have to go and meddle with it if you're choosing to use, when you're at the flight planning stage in it. And that's where things like LittleNavMap come in if you haven't got Navigraph, to be able to have a look and see what the SIDs and stars look like. Okay, so we're coming around the corner here. Let's go level change to get down to 7,000 feet. And we're coming down below 10,000 feet now, so the landing lights need to come on. Can we see the aeroplane from outside? Now we have the city too, because from below you can't really see anything. One of the joys of flying at night. There we go, look, you can see we're going to be at 7,000 feet. On our way along here. If we want to descend any quicker, we can just use the spoilers. $8,300 feet. Going down towards 7,000. So let's just go and remind ourselves of the barometric pressure for Torp is 2944. So let's start doing that now. That's a huge change. Where's the backup altimeter? Here it is. Okay, so now we're coming back down to 5,000. Again, level change. put the head tracking on. And reduce the range again. So we're coming into, we need to be down to 3,000 for our next target. We're just about to hit 5,000. And we also want to start slowing down. So have we got any instructions here? Max 210 knots. Okay. What that refers to is really once you get to here, once you're vectoring in. But that's for the go around. If you're coming in on a normal approach, yeah, 210 max. But that's from either unbam or lullop, and we're just approaching unbam, and we're now at 210 knots, which is good. And we can't see anything, obviously, because we're out over the water. You just see the land on the right hand side going past, and then we'll be out over the water again. So we're doing the, here comes the vertical deviation we were talking about earlier. So as soon as we make the next left turn, so we're supposed to still be at 3,000 here, remember. Then when we turn in, we'll switch over to ILS mode, and we'll see the tune in. So let's just check this 11095, 11095, 355 degrees, 355 degrees. That's looking good. So let's slow this down a bit further. Just extending the flaps. You can see the runway out there probably. I think that's it. See, this really wants us to be doing a descending turn. So we could come down to 2500, I guess. Let's see if we catch up with the vertical deviation. That'd be interesting to watch that, actually. See what happens to it. So obviously we're descending quite rapidly, but it'd be interesting to watch this. So if we go and show ILS obviously you can see there's the glide slope marker. We're not on it yet. Here comes the localizer. There's the runway. Should we try this? Put it in land mode. See what it does. So it's straightening up. You can see ENTO now on the navigation display. It's still saying we are above, but we're still below the ILS beam. That's a bit odd. Here comes the glide slope. So I think I had a comment from somebody the other day on about this. So with the vertical speed on land mode, it's taken over from nav, if you notice. We should be able to engage both autopilots thinking about it. Let's have a look. Yeah. So on land mode you can use both. And it gives extra accuracy. You can see it's got Cat 3 there. It's going dual on the guidance. So at this point, I'm going to straighten the view up and I'm going to go and switch the autopilot off and the auto throttle and take over. Because what's the fun in letting the computer do everything? Oh, the reason we're getting a beep is... oh no, tell a lie. I think it was just warning us we disconnected the autopilot. Let's just give it a wiggle to see we're in control. We are. Are there any lights up here? We'll put the nose wheel on takeoff lighting, so it'll be lit up like a Christmas tree on the way in. Getting a bit slow. I don't want to go much slower than about 130 to be honest, so I'm just gonna ease the speed back up a little bit. Drifting off to the right, can you see that? Just correcting for that. Just keeping an eye on these two markers here as we descend, and obviously airspeed as well. So you can see the PAPI lights now. We've got 2 reds, 2 whites, which is good. Seems to be agreeing with the glide slope for a change. just bringing it over slowly to be aligned on the centre line again. The wind is shifting around on us a little bit. You can see the speed has been affected by that. Back on centre line, which is good.
400.
Got a few knots.
300. 200.
Yeah, that wind really is shifting around. You can see we're being pushed right again.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Yeah, we're being kicked sideways quite enormously actually. It's windier than I thought. And we're not going to make that turn. I'm going to roll long. I didn't want to just go barreling into the turn, so... Okay, that was okay in the end. Okay, we'll put the... I've already done the flaps, did that while we were rolling on the runway. Spoilers are already back up. The icing controls can come back off now, I imagine. Roll back down to the passenger area at Torp. The strobes can come off as well. Actually, they can be, they're on auto anyway, so. And turn off the head tracking for a moment, just so I can look at the live stream without looking out of the window. Yeah, I didn't use the auto brake. To be honest, it's an enormously long runway here. The wind was shifting around in the final approach. It was quite... What's it saying on the chart about that? So if we were to pull up... Actually, that's the wrong thing to look in, isn't it? We want to look in here. (280° 6 knots). So it's not saying variable or anything. It seemed to be shifting around. Maybe it's just turbulence over the trees. Should we get a bit of a move on? So let's have a look at the map of the airfield. So we're just coming down and then we cross back over towards the terminals if we don't go cross country. So you can see the terminals are over there. Or the passenger terminals, the far end. I think these are service hangars, this end. This is a commercial version of Torp, by the way, or Sandefjord. So we'll go and have a look around the passenger area in the terminal after we've landed. I might have to grab my Xbox controller and plug it in though to allow that to happen. If you notice, yeah, we have to go left to cross the main runway. Don't often see these airfields at night, do you, with all the lighting? It's really cool. I've even got all the gantries look around the aircraft. It's very, very cool. So if we come in directly on this corner, gate number 1. Okay, do we have... Oh, actually, you can cheat, can't you, in this aircraft? You can get the GPU from the tablet. If I can remember how. Ground equipment. Because obviously we could do this by switching the APU on, but if we make the external power unit available, we can then just cut the engines. And turn the seatbelt signs off. Put the dome lights on, put them on bright so we can see what we're doing. And obviously you could go around and turn all the fuel pumps and everything off if you really wanted to and do it all properly, but I want to go and have a nose around the building. So we'll press the head tracking. We could do this with the keyboard, to be honest. We don't have to use an Xbox controller to do it. If you press the insert key, you get the external view. If you press... Okay, it's going to be fun and games. Let's go and... That's not what I wanted. I want the camera control. I want to slow down the drone speed. That'll do. 5. Interesting. So the people disappeared when we got too close to them. Very odd. I'm just having a nose around now to see what they've modelled. I think somebody had too much spare time on their hands. What's happened to the top of all their heads? Is that snow? That's quite amusing. They've had a sudden dandruff outbreak. I love this, that they've modelled this part of it in such detail. It's very cool, isn't it? And yes, it's snow, isn't it? So all the people had snow on their heads. Obviously, we are in a northern clime, and the weather isn't as clement as it is here. I have got a friend that lives in Sandefjord, and she did actually complain on a social media post about a week ago that she was absolutely worn out because she had to walk about half a mile to somewhere, and was wading through snow about 3 or 4 feet thick. It's very cool, isn't it? They've done a really good job with it. But yeah, this part of the world, people learn to ski very early on, just because otherwise you have that problem of being able to walk anywhere and it being a bit of a nightmare. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you all again soon. That was good fun. Obviously the takeoff was a bit of a disaster. Well, no, the takeoff was fine. The departure was a bit of a disaster, but that was a really good example actually of kind of cascading problems, all caused initially by me looking out the window admiring the view rather than following the flight plan track. So anybody that hasn't seen it, if you want to rewind and see the start, yeah, I was following the track, engaged the autopilot. The autopilot missed that I had gone past a couple of the waypoints, and on engaging it, it tried to turn back towards an earlier waypoint rather than realise we had already passed it, even though we only missed it by a small amount. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you all again soon. Take care.